Delegates from more than 50 nations and international organisations were in London this week for a conference on the future of Somalia. The Prime Minister, David Cameron, told the delegates it was vital to rebuild the country to prevent mass migration and the export of terrorism. Mary Harper was listening to some of the speeches and grand plans for Somalia, but she wonders how much real progress in that country, racked for decades by civil war, lies in the hands of Somalis themselves.
The day after the Somalia Conference, the heads of state had made their speeches. Hundreds of millions of pounds of extra money had been pledged. The journalists had packed up their cameras and tape recorders, and the cleaners were vacuuming the corridors of Lancaster House. But in another, equally glamorous location, another Somalia Conference was taking place. And this was the one that in many ways really mattered, because this was about business and investment. The British Museum, home to ancient and precious objects from all over the world, was an odd choice of venue. Somalis are traditionally a nomadic people. Apart from livestock, the less you have in terms of material possessions, the better. This also applies to the Somali business community, a super-globalised group who travel the world, living out of suitcases and making money. They were there in force in the British Museum, as were the Americans, the Europeans and the Arabs, all keen for a stake in Somalia. A country that's been at war for more than 2 decades, its cities smashed to rubble, needs new buildings, roads, electricity and water. And it's in a part of the world where fresh reserves of oil and gas are being discovered. The first thing that caught my eye was an enormous orange banner with a picture of a fat, smiling Somali baby wearing nothing but a nappy. Standing in front of it was a smart young Somali in a shiny suit. His name was Mohamed, and he was selling nappies. Made in America, sold in Somalia. The company was set up by a group of Somalis living in Minnesota in the United States. It was inspired by a young Minnesota-based Somali woman who, every time she went home, got frustrated by the lack of nappies, sanitary pads and other such items. So, like a good Somali, she saw an opportunity. The products have Somali names and images. They are a Somali brand, and they're selling like crazy in Somali towns. Mohamed told me that a recent study found that 30% of teenage girls in Somalia miss school for a few days every month when they have their periods. The products he sells mean they don't have to miss school anymore.